Scott Kint, the CEO of Corcel PLC, following an announcement of a proposed battery metals joint venture, a new cornerstone investor, and a modest placing. So Scott, just give us the high-level overview here, where this deal has come about from. I believe they were your offtake partner, weren't they?
Correct. Yeah, we announced earlier this year and then again over the summer that we had been working with the NPC Group, the owners of a cathode plant in China, to work together to arrange offtake for our nickel and cobalt assets in PNG. And we've been discussing this over the last 6 to 9 months, and out of that has now come an arrangement that is effectively going to replace the offtake negotiations and create a joint venture company in Singapore that is going to produce the battery metals that our partners need directly.
Mm-hmm. So this is a overall reorganization of the company's sort of strategy, is it, with regards to your interest there in the Papua New Guinea and the battery metals asset. I understand that you'll be integrating a new company in Singapore with the focus to pursue an Asian-focused battery metal strategy, and that'll give lots of access to the network there and various offtake partners. So what was the main rationale behind it? Obviously, a good deal for Corcel, but also part of a bigger vision?
Yeah, I think we've always wanted to expose our investors to more than just nickel and cobalt, and probably expand our exposure beyond PNG as well, right? So what this does is stick 100% of our Wowo Gap asset, 41% of our Mambare assets is the part that we own, and potentially the other part as well. I should say we've left it open to our partner to join in on that, BMA. And then NPC, our new partners in this venture, stick in a small portion of an Argentinian lithium project, which has just raised money on a $100 million valuation. So it's pretty exciting and has some great positioning. We then form a Singapore joint venture, which we run together. We have 50%, they have 50%. We have a board seat, obviously. We get a carry. So we get the first 1.5 million of joint spend paid for on our behalf. We don't have to do anything. We can just sit there and contribute, but not have to contribute cash, actually. We get a 1.5% gross revenue royalty, and that's the best kind. That's the kind that comes off the top of revenue and doesn't require profitability. So that's on the Wowo Gap project. So when Wowo produces, effectively, we get a small portion off the top of every month's production, effectively. So it's pretty exciting. We do get a bit of cash, which you mentioned at the beginning. And perhaps just as importantly, NPC is going to join the Corcel board, which kind of permanently ties all these parties together in a meaningful way. And I think that's really what we've been working on over the course of the year, is how to do this, how to structure this to make it work for all parties. And I think what we've announced today really outlines how that's going to look and how that's going to work.
Okay. Well, it certainly sounds like a good partnership. You're handing over your assets there, but you're also getting the other assets in return for a 50-50 split in a new joint venture company. Just on the 1.5 million carry then, could you just explain a little bit more about that? So that means you will not have your first 1.5 million of US dollar cost. You won't have to pay that immediately, but at some point you will.
Correct. I mean, at some point we would want to contribute to what we're going to call integrated battery metals, or IBM's operations. But for the first 2 years or first 1.5 million of spend, and that could be on Wowo Gap, that could be on Mambare, that could be on the Argentinian lithium project, we effectively don't have to meet those cash calls. And so the idea here is that it gives everybody some comfort that even though we're getting in bed with some big boys here, some really big entities behind us, and we can talk about that in a sec, we aren't going to be diluted away through some kind of big spending program in the first couple of weeks or something like that. So it gives us a bit of time to get our feet. I would say with NPC joining our board that, obviously that the option here, or the focus here, is really on working together. I think there's no particular reason for them to put money into us and to sort of get in bed with us directly by joining our board, unless they want us to continue to contribute and, carry our weight in the joint venture. But the point is that we don't have to do that from day one.
Okay, but there's no kind of spurious clauses within that. It's purely the 1.5 million. There's no interest being charged over the period of time.
No, not at all. It's not a borrowing at all. It really is simply you cash call each party. So let's say there's some payments required for Wowo Gap, which there are. I mean, there are ongoing costs of keeping people fed and running things down there. Each party would be cash called, and our cash call would simply be deleted, effectively be met by 100% of NPC in this case.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about the partner then. You've talked about the big boys and, being not getting into a situation where you have to dilute to match the big boys spending. So what can you tell us about the new partner?
Sure. Well, again, the key here is that we're being tied to a group behind the NPC cathode plant in China. And there are three major shareholders there. And again, we announced this earlier in the year. The first is the Setian Global Resources Fund. That's a $3 billion private mining fund. So again, people that invest in some pretty serious stuff. They're the mining experts in all this, and they're the ones that have DD'd our assets in PNG. They're the ones who are more directly running the Argentinian lithium project. And then the second shareholder there is Cosmo AM&T. That's a $1 billion plus Korean public company that makes cathodes and has applied some technology to the cathode plants. So they effectively injected the tech into the Chinese factory. And then the third group is called the Shandong Duguide Group, which is the third largest titanium pigment producer in China. So they are the three underlying shareholders behind NPC, and those are collectively our partners on this new venture together in Asia.
Okay, so well established in the space, would you say?
I would say, it's certainly they're the kind of people that we want to work with. Let's put it that way. I mean, we're a relatively small mining company on AIM, right? And these guys are, a massive private equity fund, a massive listed company, and a very, very big, real producer of pigment there in China. So, I think from a strategy point of view, we always knew that our PNG assets would need to be tied up in some form with a group or series of groups that would that wanted the raw materials and would see them through production, whether that ends up being a DSO operation or the building potentially of a bigger HPAL type plant. They needed to be attached to a group that had that kind of balance sheet. And this structure gives us that, right? So if somebody was to sit there and say, how's Corcel going to take this forward? Well, now that answer is right here in front of us, right? We're going to take it forward through this Singapore joint venture with the balance sheet, the collective balance sheet of the three partners that we just outlined.
Excellent. And the end goal would be to get to production, as you mentioned just now.
Well, I'd say that the IBM entity, so Integrated Battery Metals, will have to decide what it's going to prioritize, right? I mean, but the value to Corcel shareholders now is you don't have to wait just for one PNG project to go forward. You now have ongoing exposure to the PNG assets that you probably invested in us, and plus exposure to the lithium in Argentina, which is probably the hottest battery metal around at the moment. So you've got cobalt, nickel, and lithium all now within the expanded portfolio. And IBM which will have 50% board representation, will collectively decide which to prioritize, how to take each one forward, and how those things and potentially some new things will all fit together.
Okay, excellent. And just finally, then, on you made a modest raise, £200,000. That's with the partner you mentioned there, Shandong New Power. So they actually took part in a placing directly with Corcel as well.
Yeah, they come in as a cornerstone shareholder, and that's kind of what I was trying to say and imply. Obviously, we intend to do some other things together. I wouldn't put too much onus on the size of this. This is sort of getting their feet in the water. They're joining the board, and then together as we enact this deal. So as this deal is put together, obviously this is the sort of proposal to put it together. There's a lot of legals that have to be done to stick all these things together to create IBM. As we're doing that, then we'll be working with NPC as they join the board to decide exactly what the PLC here in the UK will do next. And it may be a mix of some of the things we're doing now, and maybe some exciting new things that this new partnership opens up.
Well, excellent. Thank you very much, Scott Kynes, the CEO of Corcel PLC. And I believe we're going to be doing a sort of a longer format podcast where we can go into a bit more detail. So I look forward to doing that with you later on this week, Scott.
Thank you. I look forward as well. Thank you, Bart.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stockboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.